So the monkeypox virus is one that was well known to us since 1950s. 1950s. It is nothing new. It's nothing novel, much like the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2. And this particular virus is in the family of viruses which is referred to as the arthropox viruses. In that virus zone, they include other viruses that we know about. That includes things such as smallpox, for example, and cowpox as well. Now, what is quite different from this virus is generally not found in this part of the world. The two areas of the globe which this is well known in is in West Africa, as well as in the Congo region of Africa. And they have had cases of this over a period of time. So the two distinct, what we call versions or strains of the virus, the one I said before, which is in West Africa, and the other version before, which is in Congo. And these two, although they're the same virus, they have a kind of different profile in the fact that the one which is found predominantly in the Congo region has a much higher mortality rate, about, let's say about 10-11%. And the clade, which is the one which is actually circulating right now, or we believe circulating predominantly right now, is the West African type clade which is circulating, and that particular one, for example, has a mortality of much less, about 1% or so, with the highest mortality being seen predominantly in children in that particular part of the world. Lucky for the globe at this point, there have been no recorded cases of deaths associated with monkeypox from this particular outbreak. So what makes this quite different for us? And it's not unfamiliar to have had cases of monkeypox. In fact, I think back in 2003, there was an outbreak in a part of the US with monkeypox, but that was tied generally to a travel type event. And monkeypox is also recorded as well in imported animals, again, into various parts of the world. So it's been seen in small parts of the US, but those outbreaks have been small. What makes this quite different is that you have kind of like the virus popping up in multiple different places across the globe. I think it's about 27, 24, 20 plus countries. That changes by the minute across the globe at this particular point, all unconnected at this point to each other. And as I said before, they're investigating that at this particular point. So really that's what makes this quite different from before. We have multiple events going. But I say that, but then I say in the next sentence that since COVID has come down and people are now traveling, there's lots of movement. And I think some of the cases, which I know and the guys from CDC have put out, and from the European area, some of them were connected, they believe connected to travel. So I think that this is very important. Right, so the actual current source of monkeypox, which is probably not well known, interestingly enough, it's called monkeypox because back in the 1970s, when it was found in humans, it was traced certainly back to the animal population, which you know in 1958 or somewhere around there, and that it was actually found in the monkey population. But actually, the virus itself is probably more commonly found as the primary source of infection in mice, Gambian rats, for example, squirrels, and many other rodents. It can also be found in as well, and that transmission obviously would have occurred into the monkey population, and that's how that was found. In fact, in some cases overseas, it was found in imported animals which were being used in laboratories. But interestingly enough, you might ask yourself, so Barbados has a large population of monkeys, for example, and I guess people worry about that as well. I think the important point is that we've had no recorded cases here. I don't think that that's a huge threat. Like I said before, the risk of transmission is extremely low. I think countries globally are racing to track down and do the appropriate contact tracing to figure out where the virus is within their population, because they do not want it to become endemic within their countries. So monkeypox presentation is like no different to any other virus. It presents with fever, often a high fever. It can present with muscle pains, joint pains, and some significant fatigue. I think that's one of the factors. But what makes it different from some of these other viruses which cause a rash, which I'll talk about in a minute, is that it's often associated with what we call lymphadenopathy. Most Barbadians might know them as, they call them Watson kernels, for example. So you can have lymphadenopathy all over, under the armpits, in the neck region, for example, in the groin region. But I think and I've been following this quite closely with my colleagues overseas, the presentation for this one in terms of the rash, which everyone is most interested in. The rash generally occurs between 1 to 3 days after the fever. That's a general thing. And classically, I use the word classically here importantly. Classically, it starts on the face and then it can involve the upper, lower limbs and then spreads throughout the body. But I think in this particular outbreak, what is also found, which is a bit different, it's been found as well in areas where they believe that the contact with the actual virus may have been. For example, in the gluteal or perianal region, they found people actually presenting with that in the absence of just the normal presentation of starting on the face as well. So I think that's an important point. So everybody, is more scared to look at the television and look at the internet, social media, and see this rash. So how does it generally present? And it can look something almost like chicken pox, for example, but what kind of separates it is that lymphadenopathy. And I think the World Health Organization has made special pains to say, look, one of the major separating factors between the two may be actually the presence of lymphadenopathy, those lymph nodes, what you call Watson kernels. But I think the other important aspect, as we talk about the rash, is how it really presents. And like I said, it can be very dramatic in how it looks. So you can get the raised lesions on the skin. It can get a little bit bigger. Then they get pus. Then the top kind of erodes off, and you have that. If you had chicken pox, you would know what I'm talking about in the past. And then it becomes a bit dried off, crusted, and then it eventually heals. And interestingly enough, somewhere between 6 to 13 days, maybe incubation periods. And different places may say different things, but that's in general. And it can be as long as 21 days. And it takes about 2 to 4 weeks or so, to really get over this and get better. So can you get ill? Can you get sick with it? Like I said before, the mortality is quite low with the West African type, but you can. There's nothing that's impossible. You can, but again, that will be a very rare event. Classically, you can get what we call sepsis, so you can get severe infection, and that may be from the skin. Skin lesions may become secondary infected, for example, and that may enter into the bloodstream, and the person can become extremely ill. As well, there can be encephalitis, which is really an infection now of the brain, and that can occur, and that can be quite significant. Or other secondary infections can follow from actually having monkeypox. Lucky for us, we don't have to be sticking swabs up our nose to make a diagnosis of monkeypox. On this occasion, to make the diagnosis of monkeypox, you actually swab the actual lesion and the crest of the lesion, actually get some of the liquid from the lesions, the common lesions that you may see all over the internet on the skin, and you send them for a PCR test. So there's no need to do that testing. What I would say is, as for any single infectious disease which enters the country, there are mechanisms at the airport which are there to try to facilitate non-entrance of highly infectious diseases into the country. So you go to the kiosk, for example, and they may be asking you about things as relate to COVID-19, and you can see the presentation almost sounds almost like COVID-19 with the absence of the rash, of course, and they'll be able to identify if you have a fever, for example, muscle pains, joint pains, the classical things that were asked, which allows you to be highlighted if you think if something is wrong, for example. It's from then that if you pick up a patient, for example, that then you can appropriately deal with them. And I'll say this, and I think this is very important for the average public person to understand. Now, it is much more at this particular point, and I always caveat that because things change very quickly. We learned that with COVID-19. At this particular point, we know how monkeypox is spread. So it's spread certainly by contact. So this is not just, this is close contacts. Close contacts. So close contacts, whether it be sexual contact or kissing or exchange of saliva, it certainly can be spread like that. But it also can be probably even more commonly spread by actually being in contact with the actual lesions which may be on the skin. And from also contact with formates. So whether it be cutlery, towels, utensils, for example, it can also be spread by that mechanism. So why did I actually say that in the context of asking that question is that it's kind of difficult at this point to spread from human to human. It can also be spread by droplets as well. You will hear that and you see that. So the same type of precautions which are used or which are in place certainly on the indoors for COVID-19 will decrease the amount of spread of such a virus. It's even way more difficult to spread than, let's say, COVID-19. So if someone enters this country and they're a suspected case, because you have to be a suspected case before you're confirmed, there's a process which you go through. Then, I mean, Barbados is one of the few Caribbean countries that I would say which already has an infectious disease unit present in country outside of Harrison's Point, which is used for COVID-19. And we should be able at that point to contain a virus of that nature within that facility. It's what it was designed for, to deal with these sort of events. Remember that unit was built to really defend us against Ebola, and certainly it can be used in this particular context. And that's, falls in line with what the national plan would be if this would happen. And if we have to execute that plan, then we already have skilled and trained individuals to deal with this. And COVID-19 certainly would have helped with that. That we have that cohort of people on the ground. So I think while the public needs to continue to follow what's going on internationally, I think the public also needs to be assured that the appropriate plans are in place for any infectious disease, certainly of this nature, if it enters the country, that we're able to deal with this just by execution of a ground plan, which is there for any infectious disease. But I think at our ports of entry, the strength of our ports of entry is already there. It's been proven and tested in the past, and so we now, viruses of this nature enter, we're able to identify from early and do the appropriate isolation and contact tracing, which is a very important point as well. Overseas is doing a lot of contact tracing from people who've been in contact in airplanes, etc. So contact tracing, the appropriate isolation, which can be 21 days in some cases, and the appropriate testing and investigation, and working with our international colleagues should we get a suspected case to have that tested by our contacts through CARFA or other international agencies.